A connection between your gut and skin cancer? Two things you wouldn't think go hand in hand, but maybe they do. We're going to learn about it today on the exam room. And welcome to the Exam Room Podcast, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hello, I'm the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll, raising health IQs coast to coast and around the world. Hi to the roomies watching today in Kansas City, Kansas, Miami Gardens, Florida, and Shanghai, China. Wherever you are, we appreciate you making the world a healthier place. And this is indeed episode 47 of season 8, number 646 overall. That is a lot of episodes. And today we are talking about whether or not there is a connection between your gut and your risk of skin cancer. It is indeed unusual, but there does seem to be at least some evidence showing a potential link there. And for me, it's actually personal because in the midst of all the other health challenges I've been facing of late, I was also recently diagnosed with skin cancer. I actually had a spot removed right off of my temple right there recently. And that's when I started to look into a potential connection. And I wanted to do a deeper dive with someone who could certainly help us explore this topic. He is a dear friend of the show. He is a dear friend of mine and someone worthy of a heck of an introduction. So with that in mind, here we go. He is a two-time New York Times bestselling author, a scribe with a healthy jive, making your bowels do that boogie-woogie vibe. He can dance, he can sing, and if he were a WWE superstar, he would be king of the ring. But he's here with us instead, exploring the gut and potentially even your butt. This man loves his coffee, and like Kofi, it's a new day for your health. Yes, it is. Now, not to make light of a serious topic, but when it comes to health, he's philanthropic, giving away his time so you can age healthfully like wine. He is the man, he is the myth, he is the legend, Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. What is up, my man?
What's up? What's up? How we doing, Chuck?
I'm doing good, Kofi Kingston. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I loved that intro. That was incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to put it together. I used Bruce Springsteen's songwriting philosophy, and that is just to grab a rhyming dictionary and see what sticks, what comes into your head. So that's how we came up with that magic today.
Amazing.
So you are the boss of gut health. So, by the way, guys, songwriting or otherwise, if you have a question about your health, post it in the comments or in the chat. We're going to get to as many as we can here on the show today. So here's the deal, man. Let's get serious for a second. So as we now know, I began speaking openly about all of my health challenges over the last couple of years. One of the symptoms that I hadn't really talked about were all of the changes that occurred with my skin. Like it started to get a little bit waxy in places. I started to notice I was like getting some bumps here and there, a lot of them on my face, some on my shoulders. And I actually had one of those removed last year. It came back non-cancerous. Well, flash forward about 3 weeks ago, I had a second biopsy done. And this one came back positive for basal cell carcinoma. And so just about this time last week, I was having what they call the Mohs procedure, Dr. B, where they go in and they try to clean it out and they get the cancer removed. And you can see I got a Band-Aid right there on my temple. And luckily, they say they were able to get it all. I still have some other spots that I want to get looked at, but it just got me to thinking, like, either I'm the unluckiest person in the history of ever to have this occurring at the same time as everything else that was going on, or there's a connection between the two. Caveat, obviously, I'm very fair complected, have been sunburned time and time and time again, so skin cancer runs in the family as well. So there's definitely that genetic component there, but the timing here just seems coincidental to me. I mean, is there a connection? What do we know?
Well, there is a connection. 20 years ago, prior to research on the gut microbiome, the language that we would have used, Chuck, is we would have said, well, he's Irish. So,
guilty as charged, man. Guilty as charged. Yeah.
I mean, that basically kind of covers the topic. Like, okay, the guy's Irish. Like,
yeah.
This is what happens. So,
Yeah.
but I believe that in the last 25, 30 years, we've learned things, and it's no longer medically appropriate to just completely attribute it to being Irish anymore. And so, although that's still a part of it.
Oh, yeah.
But By the way, my apologies if you hear them doing my yard in the background. That's happening as we speak here. But they have the most wonderful timing. The issue with this, Chuck, is that I don't believe that this is just a coincidence. So the key here is that there's common connections that exist, and there is the acceptance by the scientific community at this point with total clarity. Like, this is not a controversial topic anymore. There's something called the gut-skin axis, and basically what that means, axis AXIS, that the gut and the skin are communicating with one another and intertwined on some level. And I would actually, Chuck, broaden this, and we can dig into this in terms of our discussion today. But I would actually argue it's not just gut skin, it's the gut immune skin axis. So it's these three parts, it's like a triangle: the gut microbiome, the immune system, where 70% of your immune system resides in the lining of your gut, right there, just literally millimeters away from where all these microbes are. There's your immune system, 70% of it, and then your skin. And so the ability of your immune system to identify abnormal cells and remove them is essential for the prevention of neoplasia, which is cancer.
Mm.
And when the immune system is not functioning the way that it's supposed to, which can be within the context of chronic inflammation, where the immune system has been activated, and when it's chronically activated, it's no longer precise, it's no longer perfect, it's just burning, right? That's like an army that's just shooting its guns. And within that context, then it creates issues where there's vulnerability, because now the immune system is not as strong as it needs to be in order to powerfully remove any neoplastic cells that are starting to develop, and that includes in the skin.
Interesting. And definitely a lot of the gastrointestinal issues that I've been having would kind of portend to what it is that that you're talking about. We've talked in depth about the gut brain axis. Didn't really get that there's a gut skin axis, but it does make perfect sense. And somebody in the chat, Catherine Bridgman, actually said, isn't it said that the skin is the mirror of the intestine anyway, right? So if the intestine isn't happy, then wouldn't that then be reflected on the person's skin as well? That seems to be kind of a lay way of explaining exactly what it is you're talking about.
Yeah, but I think there's some truth to it. I think that, skin is an outward representation. Like, this is the organ that's outward facing, right? And highly visible to others. And so within seconds of meeting a person, you're in a way, subliminally, subconsciously making an assessment on the health of that person based upon what you see superficially on their skin. Is it the only thing? No. Can you have healthy appearing skin and have other health issues? Of course you can. But I think that the point, which is absolutely true, is that when a person's gut microbiome is not well, one of the common places that you will see it manifest is in the skin. And there's a number of different ways that this can manifest. And so skin cancers are just one example. Basal cell skin cancer, as you've described, Chuck, squamous cell skin cancer, melanoma have all been associated with changes or disturbances of the gut microbiome, but also eczema and acne and psoriasis. These are other skin-based conditions that are quite clearly associated with what's happening in the gut.
At least in terms of psoriasis and things like that, that would be like an autoimmune condition, correct? So, I mean, what's the connection between the immune system here and what's going on?
Yeah, so all of them on some level do involve the immune system. So this is why when we say gut skin axis, and it's this is again, among scientists, commonly accepted language to describe the gut skin axis and talk about how what's happening inside of your gut is affecting what's manifesting on your skin outwardly. But I would argue that we should include the word immune, because I don't think it's just directly the gut and the skin, that we have to include this third party, the immune system. And, with regard to psoriasis is an autoimmune health condition, which basically means that the immune system is attacking your own body. And so, yes, clearly that involves the immune system, but so does eczema. Eczema is an allergic skin condition, similar to the way that seasonal allergies are allergic, similar to the way that asthma can be allergic. This is an allergic skin condition. And when it's allergic, that basically means that your immune system, once again, is overreactive. Again, failure of the immune system, overreactive, and it's responding to things that are foreign to your body in the case of eczema. So, or in the case, as we've been discussing, of these skin cancers, basal cell, squamous cell, melanoma, the issue is that your immune system has not been appropriately reactive. So 2 of these, eczema and psoriasis, are overactivity of the immune system. And the skin cancers are underactivity of the immune system. But in all cases, the immune system is confused and not functioning the way that it's supposed to.
All right. So I'm actually getting some clues here. And look, I want to be very clear with the audience. I still am not 100% comfortable talking about everything that's going on with me. The show was never designed to be about me. And the only reason that I'm talking about what's going on is because I want to use this as an opportunity to educate other people who might be going through something similar, right? This is not meant to be a woe is me thing. It's meant to be an educational thing. And I think that, the more open I can be about this, the better we're all going to be, the healthier we're all going to be. So let's now talk about what you're talking about, like eczema, psoriasis, 2 things that run in my family. Dude, since I've gotten sick, my hands have been like dry as the Sahara as well. No matter how much water I drink, no matter, coffee, like whatever, like I'm constantly hydrating throughout the day. So it's not a matter of being dehydrated. And like, I don't have any oil on my fingertips. It's like really hard for me to like grip things or turn pages. They're just like dry. I've got nothing there. And so now we're talking about this and I'm wondering, okay, well, when I go back to the Mayo Clinic at the end of the month, should we begin exploring, some of these other conditions here? And all the symptoms still line up. Like, yeah, we should. I'm still like, as much as we figured out, I still feel like a medical mystery, man, to be honest with you. I just don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. Well, so I guess let me, start by saying that I'm not a dermatologist. So, and I'm not a person who, I wouldn't consider myself an expert on the treatment and management of eczema or psoriasis. Those are their own issues, and that would be best for a dermatologist to weigh in on something like that. That being said, I think that let's just start with the essential information that we led the show with, which is that a person who's at a young age, right? You're a strapping young buck. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
Thank you, sir. And you are handsome as well. 42 years young, my friend. 42.
Well, I wasn't commenting on good looks. I just said you're a strapping young buck.
Well, how the heck else am I doing it? Strapping young buck, as in that's a good-looking man.
Looking. Maybe the people maybe people in the comments could let me know whether or not strapping means good looking, or is it just related to your youth? But anyway, you're a young man. You're a young man. Chuck.
Yes, I am.
Let's be serious here, Chuck.
I'm gonna try.
All right. So, the question though is truly, how does it that a young guy is being diagnosed with skin cancer, right? I mean, is this not a condition of aging that should be typically manifesting in people that are older, 50s, 60s, 70s? And I think what I do, Chuck, is I would start with this. And say, that here we are, and we have the manifestation of a basal cell skin cancer, which means that there's absolutely higher risk for future basal cell skin cancers. These things don't come in isolation, and then the risk is back to baseline. The risk has been elevated. So now we have to say, okay, what are the steps that we can take to address this issue and protect ourselves? And here's where we step back into my realm, which is that, Chuck, there was a recent paper that was published using a genetic technique called Mendelian randomization. I'll spare you on how they do this. It's so nerdy. It's even for me, it's nerdy, and I'm a nerdy guy.
Really? I mean, that's a high bar, bro. That's a high bar.
This is what I'm saying. This is like over the top nerdy. This is like full scale Dungeons and Dragons level nerdy.
Oof. Okay, well, give us half the nerd. Give us half the nerd
Yeah.
version.
Yeah. I don't want to diss Dungeons and Dragons. Actually, I think it's kind of cool. But anyway, basically the point is that they can use this genetic technique to try to identify not just associations. Here's the key. It's not just associations. It's not just, hey, this is true and this is true at the same time. This is actually identifying causation using this genetic technique. And when they performed an analysis of basal cell cancer and melanoma, here's what they found. That the gut microbiome was identified as causative of basal cell cancer and melanoma. Additionally, they found that the gut microbiome was associated with and causative of progression of basal cell cancer and melanoma. So this is not just like we hear about these epidemiology studies classically, epidemiology, these are associations. You can't say what causes what. Those are the rules of the game. But with a Mendelian randomization study, the intent is to be able to say what is causing what. And what they found is that the gut microbiome was causing these two types of skin cancer and was causing progression of those cancers. So the answer, Chuck, is let's get back to the fundamentals of gut health here. Yes, let's take care of the skin. Yes, discuss that with a dermatologist at the Mayo Clinic or wherever it may be. Yes, talk to the dermatologist about skin cancer prevention. And of course, they're going to talk to you about wearing, SPF 100 sunscreen, right? But I'm here to say that's not where the conversation ends. I'm here to take the conversation into the gut and to say that we have an opportunity there to heal the gut using the techniques that you and I have discussed on this show through many episodes to improve the gut and to improve the immune system. And by doing that, I believe that we can reduce your long-term risk. Being a strapping young buck, I want to be having this conversation on this podcast 40 years from now, Chuck. This exact podcast, 40 years from now, Chuck.
Don't you? Hey, look, man, I'm not going anywhere. All right. You can't keep this guy down. Don't worry about that. That's interesting. Really quickly, when you said causative and you mentioned progression, does that mean like it's like it will develop more rapidly? Is that what you meant when you were explaining the study and you said progression?
So you have to like let's imagine for a moment, okay? Just like let's get creative in our mind for a moment about the pathway to cancer. The point at which you see it is already way further beyond where it started. It didn't start on a level that was visible. It started with one cell. And that cell became 2, 4, 8, 16. And eventually, that multiplication leads to the manifestation of a tumor. Or in the case of skin cancer, it's not, I don't know if we want to call that a tumor, but a visible lesion on the skin. And that lesion will grow and progress. And the reason why you had a Mohs surgery, the Mohs, so that people know, is where they're shaving off the cancer and they're looking under a microscope as they're doing it to make sure that they have clean margins. Right. So the intent is you don't want your dermatologist just taking a razor and going zing and done. Right. You want to go and make sure this cancer is gone. And what they're doing is they're basically going down below the cancer, beneath it. So if a cancer does grow down, that's a problem because that's how it gets into lymph nodes. That's how it gets into blood. So that's why you wanted to make sure. So the point is that the gut microbiome plays a role not just in preventing the development of cancer in the first place. Basically, what they're saying is this is preventing progression of the cancer. So it's a little bit of both, Chuck, because we're kind of talking about similar stuff here, which is like preventing the development basically means that it never gets to the point that we can see it. At a minimum, the immune system has intervened before then because we will get abnormal cells. We all will get abnormal cells. This is part of life. Our immune system takes them out. Right. But also what we're saying here is that that the gut microbiome is also playing a role in when the gut is weak, you are more likely to get a more advanced cancer, which is, of course, not what you want because it's the advanced cancers that are the scary ones.
All right. We have a few people in the chat who are wondering if we could post a link to that study, and we will. We'll dig it up as soon as we're done with the show.
It's Frontiers in Immunology. I'm looking at it right here, Chuck.
Oh, right on.
Frontiers in Immunology, January 2024. And the author's last name, not first name, last name, is Lou, L-O-U. Okay?
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know if I can post this in the chat or not, but...
you can send it to me, and I can post a comment. Okay, cool. So, yeah, just put it in the private chat there. Yeah, whatever.
Text it to you, buddy.
However you want to do it, man, it's good. It's funny. So we're talking about that, and then Cheryl in the chat at 11:23, she's kind of having like the opposite effect that I'm having. She said, before I was 100% whole food plant-based, I had many basal cell and squamous cell cancers, but none of them in the last 4 years. So she's kind of going on the opposite track as I am. So let's talk about healing that microbiome. It sounds like Cheryl was really able to improve hers. If somebody is looking to really take control of that microbiome, what should they be doing, man? Give us like some first steps. Like if somebody's kind of suffering the same way that Cheryl used to, the way that I'm going through, what are some things that the typical person might want to try?
Well, I mean, how can I avoid the absolute fundamental, which is fiber,
naturally,
right? Which is, of course, and I understand. Dr. B ends up sounding like a broken record, and you got a book that right over here that says fiber fueled. Right. But yet here we are in 95% of America is fiber deficient. And the reason why fiber works, just to be clear, this is not a mysterious thing. It's not just the gut. It's the gut immune connection that becomes critical. Because what ends up happening is that you not only are repairing and restoring the gut microbiome with fiber, but those microbes are producing short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids fix the gut barrier. When we fix the gut barrier, we actually are helping the immune system because we're protecting the immune system. Now the immune system is not constantly fighting and creating chronic inflammation. Now the immune system is at ease, at rest, and ready to strike when we call it up and we need it. We also know that short-chain fatty acids have a direct effect on our immune cells. It's a fascinating thing, Chuck. We've seen where, we've heard these studies through the years. You and I have discussed a few of these where people who were eating a plant-based diet were less likely to have serious complications from COVID. And the reason why, part of it has to do with appropriate restraint of the immune system, which means like reducing inflammation. But part of it also means making it targeted, precise, getting the right soldiers on the battlefield. That's what short chain fatty acids do. Think about them like getting an amazing general. Patton is out there on the battlefield for us, representing us, making sure that we got the right soldiers in play to defend our body, take out the basal cell skin cancer, simultaneously keeping the ones that we don't need in the barracks and keeping them fresh and not creating like unnecessary action. So I think the point, Chuck, is that like this is where we have to start. We have to start with fiber, which is found in plant-based foods.
Natural. Well, how did I know you were going to say that? Obviously, I mean, Mr. Fiber Fueled over there, doing the boogie woogie jive with your bowels and all that good stuff, man. I love that about you. But you're so right, and I think that again, just to kind of for those who haven't watched the show before. The average amount of fiber in the typical person's diet is how many grams?
The average gentleman is 18 grams a day, and he should be 38. The average woman is about 15 or 16 grams a day, and she should be 25.
Wow. So we're falling short, just to put it mildly. And
way short. Chuck, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to like make sure this is how short we are, okay? When we perform in the United States of America, when we perform fiber studies where we ask questions, does fiber protect a person from melanoma? All right. There's a specific study that I have in mind where they found that fiber intake led to better results in terms of therapy of melanoma. All right. Another skin cancer. The reason why that works is because the new therapy that we're using is called immunotherapy. We're actually using our own immune system to fight the cancer. And fiber improves the ability of our immune system to do the job. So in this study, they found that people that were high fiber consumers were more likely to survive melanoma and get a good result from their immunotherapy treatment. But the high fiber consumers, Chuck, were consuming 21 or 22 grams of fiber per day, both men and women. So in other words, the high fiber consumers were still deficient in fiber.
Interesting. Could we posit a theory that the outcomes would be even better if they were hitting the mark that they should have been hitting?
I mean,
and gotten, that full load of fiber.
So we have other studies where we see protection from, we see in association that as you increase your fiber intake, you reduce your risk of cancer. This is like particularly true with colorectal cancer, and it's a dose response curve. And so what that means, dose response is like one of the ways that we really fortify our belief that something that we've found in the epidemiology is real, is that as a person increases their fiber intake, their risk of colorectal cancer proportionally goes down. So the expectation would be that more would be better. And it's not this, these numbers that we use, Chuck, are based upon how many grams of fiber it is recommended that we get at a minimum, not optimal, at a minimum per calorie of intake on a daily basis. So typically what you want is 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 kilocalories. This is how we end up with, for women, 25 and for men, 38. But that is not optimization. That is not optimization. That is minimum. So the expectation is that more would be better.
All right. With that in mind, let's pivot to a question from Terrible Lotus. If your gut is happy with it, with no obvious issues, can you eat too much fiber? How much is too much, Dr. B?
Absolutely. You can eat too much fiber, and in the same way that you can exercise too much and hurt yourself. Right? So think of the gut as a muscle. The muscle is designed for work. And if you have been consuming plant-based foods, that muscle has been trained and it is strong and it is ready to process and unpack those foods. But even for me, although I have not experienced this in a very long time, in theory, if I went completely bonkers today, I could consume too much fiber. It's possible, right? And that would be the same as me being in good shape and working out every single week and going to the gym and saying, you know what, when I bench press, I normally bench press 185 pounds, but today I'm going to throw 300 pounds on there. That's not a very good idea.
All right, but let's just operate in the realm of hypotheticals. I want to know what Dr. B's completely bonkers diet would look like. So if you were going to go way over the top on fiber and you wanted to get 100 grams in today, all right, what are we putting on our plate to make sure that we hit that 100 grams? Give me your go-tos.
Oh, man. I mean, I'd be chia seeding it up left and right.
Cheers.
So, yeah. And like the chias would be in drinks, like, because then it's like, dude, chia has so much fiber. And if you put into a drink, it absorbs water. And I could just be like in my Yeti smashing chia beverages all day. And that by itself would get me I could probably get 30 or 40 grams of fiber by like just like being an absurd chia animal, a chia pet, if you will.
Chia.
And
Smashing chia. That's the side note. When you make your WWE debut, Smashing Chia, that'll be your finishing move name. I like it. Wow. Right there. Smashing
like
Chia.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anyway.
Yeah, and then like I would have to be doing cans of beans. So let me give you a quick example, Chuck. The reason why I'm saying like it would be very hard for me to like actually completely overwhelm my gut is if you went back 13 years ago, somewhere in there, like 2012-ish, I couldn't really eat beans. I would get gassy, bloated, not feel well, have discomfort, waves of discomfort. So that's where I was back then. I couldn't really eat beans. If you gave me the 4-bean chili, I could eat like 3 bites. Now I can take an entire serve of chili and I will add an extra can of beans, a whole extra can, like 16-ounce can, rinse it off, Add it to the chili. I mean, am I passing some gas? Yes, I'll admit I do pass gas. I will admit it. But I haven't had any like serious issue as a result of it. In fact, I feel great.
That's all right. I kind of feel like I don't want to put you through it, but man, that'd be a fun challenge. That would just be a fun challenge. I don't know. All right. Terrible Lotus. Smashing Chia's music would have to be all Smashing Pumpkins. You a fan of the Pumpkins? You like the Pumpkins? Billy Corgan?
Are you calling up me? Are you asking me?
I'm asking you. It's a comment. Terrible Lotus.
Chuck, if I'm on a deserted island, Siamese Dream is one of the 5 albums that I have with me. And if you want to see Dr. B get pumped up, turn on that album, put it on track number 1, and you will instantly get a reaction out of me. I love that album.
Go. I think you and Billy would be great friends. He's also a wrestling nerd, by the way. He owns the National Wrestling Alliance, for goodness sakes.
True. I didn't know that. Billy Corgan is cool. He's from Chicago. The only thing with him, I went to see them in concert. They weren't that great in concert. I hate to say that. It broke my heart. It broke my heart.
Some people said the same thing about
perform well and some people don't.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully we perform well. Mr. Ribbit says that this is his favorite podcast and you're his favorite guest. So thanks, Mr. Ribbit. All right, let's grab a couple more questions before we get out of here. Connie is wondering whether or not the stuff that we've been talking about today also applies to squamous cell. We've been talking a lot about basal cell and I think another kind, but squamous cell, does this also apply?
Yes. So the Mendelian randomization study that we were talking about, where I said, look, the gut microbiome literally causes basal cell cancer and melanoma. That was restricted to basal cell cancer and melanoma. That was not squamous cell cancer. They didn't look at squamous cell. So my assumption is that they had a data set that included these 2 types of cancer and didn't happen to include squamous cell. Because if they had squamous cell cases, they would have looked. I promise you. So we can't say like the exact same of evidence exists for squamous cell, but what we have is animal model studies that suggest that the gut microbiome plays a role in the manifestation of squamous cell cancer, that if you give a fecal transplant to an animal, it protects that animal from squamous cell cancer. And then we have human association studies. These are not the same as the Mendelian randomization. They're not as high level of evidence, but we do have human association studies that associate changes in the gut microbiome with squamous cell cancer. So if you take those pieces of evidence and you connect the dots, there's a very strong argument of the effect being similar or the same. And I don't see why it would be any different, to be honest with you.
All right. Housekeeping note. We were talking about the word strapping earlier, and Bridget put the definition in there. Adjective, especially of a young person being big and strong. So I've been wrong about strapping my whole life.
Yeah.
I've been wrong.
It's not like if I call you strapping, it's not because I'm saying you're a good looking guy, Chuck.
Well, you're saying I'm a hideous.
You are a good-looking guy. You are a good-looking guy.
Thank you.
Just to be totally clear, I'm not disputing the looks. I'm just saying that, like, when I say you're a strapping young buck, I'm referring to you're a young, strong man.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. Good. All right. So now our English IQs are a little bit higher, at least mine is. And our exam roomie, good story of the day goes to Clay. Wow. 10 months being completely vegan, down 240 pounds. Spent most of my life in the low 400s. Very similar story to Chuck's, including Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. Love watching you guys. Binged watch, get this, 3 years of shows in just weeks. Clay's on a roll. Clay is on a roll with that. I mean, geez Louise, we did a show one time talking about how the microbiome shifts when you undergo that massive weight loss. We don't know much about Clay's story other than those awesome details right now. But if you were just to guess, like how his microbiome has shifted in those 10 months, I mean, is it even possible to like quantify, comprehend? I mean, talk about just how different it freaking looks today compared to almost a year ago.
Yeah, well, it would be a massive difference, right? Because what we have here is a person who's describing to us 2 things. 3 things. They have the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, the massive weight loss, and the shift towards a plant-based diet. And that entire combination basically is an overhaul for the gut microbiome. We know with clarity, by the way, that when you achieve energy balance, which is my way of saying, just like another way of saying weight loss, when you achieve energy balance, that actually this is great for the gut microbiome. It also reduces inflammation in the body. And then when you add in that you're actually fueling with the premium fuel, which means high fiber, plant-based, this is a setup for health.
Yeah, way to go, Clay. He's getting a lot of kudos in the chat right now as well. Well deserved at that. He says, I'm a delivery driver. I have you guys in my ears 10 hours a day.
That's
Holy
so cool.
smokes,
I love
Clay.
that. I love
Super
that.
raising the health IQ. I want to sneak one more in here because I think it's kind of cool, and we've honestly never talked about it. Maybe you know a thing or two being a father. How does the microbiome shift during pregnancy? Sarah says she's 27 weeks along so far. What do we know there? Completely off topic, but I think a very cool question nonetheless.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. So to me, this is like part of the proof that we evolved to have a relationship with these microbes, and that to ignore the microbes and like carry on with our lives however we want to, but not really pay attention to them, is how we get ourselves into trouble. So basically what we found, Sarah, is that as a woman moves into the third trimester, that there is a shift that starts to take place within the gut microbiome, and there's a shift that starts to take place within the vaginal microbiome. So now part of this is the gut microbiome has shifted to actually accommodate weight gain. And that weight gain is actually meant, in a way, if you really think about it, to counterbalance the front weight that exists with the baby being present. So naturally, we want to add weight to our hips, to our derriere. And there's a reason why this happens during pregnancy. And the evidence would suggest that the gut microbiome and shifts that are taking place in the microbiome are helping to facilitate this. So that, to me, is like number one. That's quite fascinating. That is not just third trimester. That's happening during the second trimester. But in the third trimester, there's a shift that takes place in the vaginal microbiome, where, because of course the vaginal microbiome is first exposure for a baby that passes through the birth canal. And what they've discovered is that it actually starts to more closely resemble the microbiome that's found within mom's gut. So in other words, the birth canal is preparing for the arrival of the baby, and a gift upon arrival, entrance into the world, a gift of their first exposure to healthy microbes. And this is part of the reason why we believe that vaginal delivery is preferable over cesarean section, because basically there's the receipt of these microbes that occurs during the birthing process. Now, a bit of transparency on that. So my family, we have 4 kids, and regardless of what our wish was for the birth process, we ended up, all of our kids were born by cesarean section. And I'll just have you know that all of our kids are healthy and thriving and very happy. And so just be aware that like being born by C-section doesn't mean that a child is implicitly unhealthy.
Good to know. All right, my friend. That was a really in-depth answer there.
We could talk about breast milk too. Breast milk also.
So go for it. As long as we're on the topic, I'm not sure when this would come up again. So now's the chance. Talk to us.
Yeah, well, this stuff comes up all the time when you got all kinds of kids running around your house, Chuck. But
for sure.
Yeah, so Uncle Chuck comes to town, and you're getting climbed on by a bunch of kids.
Dude, your kids are so much fun. Absolutely.
So, all right, again, like nature has shown us that the gut microbiome plays a role in mom's health during pregnancy. There's evidence, by the way, I should add that what mom is consuming during pregnancy affects allergic risk of the child. So, which is fascinating to think that like the things that are happening before the child is born will, after the child is born, relate to the likelihood of developing allergic diseases like eczema, asthma, or seasonal allergies. And then after the child is born, human breast milk contains over 200 varieties of these things that we call human milk oligosaccharides. And they're fascinating because they have zero nutritional value for the baby directly. Human milk oligosaccharides, of which nature provides over 200 varieties, are food for the microbiome. And this is the reason why breast milk is not just like straight calories and vitamins and minerals. That's an oversimplification of nutrition. Mom's breast milk is actually a microbiome beverage designed for the baby. And this is, again, part of the reason why children who are breastfed are less likely to develop allergic diseases, less likely to be diagnosed with some autoimmune diseases, and less likely to be diagnosed with several metabolic diseases, because basically we're nurturing the gut microbiome.
Man, you took us to school today. Val is a lucky lady. I tell you what, man, you probably, and the two of you probably talked a ton about all of this stuff, didn't you? I mean, 4 kids. Yeah.
Well, I'm a lucky guy because like a lot of this stuff is she's taught me. So
right on. Val taught you? How about that? Yeah. Check this out. And Kamisha McKenzie, RN, is in the chat today. I always love it when health practitioners are here with us, raising their health IQ too. This is for everybody, this information. It's really, really, really cool. Like I'm really just tickled pink that we have doctors and RNs and everybody who just tunes in to learn right with us. Every time I crack the mic and do episodes, like I feel like I'm going to school. So thank you, man. I appreciate the education, Dr. B.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you.
Of course.
You're a strapping young buck.
Yes, and now we know big and strong is what strapping means. And real quick here before we wrap up, and I want to hear what's going on with you too, Dr. B. Michelle is in the chat, says she was diagnosed with Crohn's 25 years ago, plant-based since 2013. Crohn's has been inactive for 3 years. Thank you, Fiber. And thank you, Chuck and Dr. B. How about that? Fiber for the win again.
Love it.
All right, so what's cracking with you, man? What's cracking on your website? Catch us up to date.
Oh, you know what? So right now I'm doing a lot of growing behind the scenes. So let me just throw this out there to the wonderful community of the exam room that pay attention, like circle August on your calendar and prepare to come back to the Dr. B website, because there's going to be some dramatic changes that are taking place at the Dr. B website. And I'm going to have a lot of exciting things to share and discuss.
Ooh, UTs. All right. UTs. I wonder what that could be. I'm curious as anything now. I don't know.
It's actually not just one thing. It's like I have a whole bunch of stuff I'm working on behind the scenes. So,
I know.
So you can guess, and you might be right, and there might be other stuff too.
Ooh. Stay tuned. All right. That is indeed a good tease. Listen, guys, if you have a health story that you would like to share here on the show, like Clay and Michelle today, go ahead, drop me a line on X, Instagram, wherever, at Chuck Carroll, WLC. You can also shoot me an email, chuck@theweightlosschampion.com. Always looking for good things to talk about here on the show. Dr. B, Gut Health MD, appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Chuck. Hey, real quick, before I run, we have a question from Barbara Weber, MD. And I just want to answer it real quick. Could I?
Yeah, go for it.
So the question was, does eating too much fiber only result in symptoms, or is it unhealthy? So to my knowledge, I have never found actual evidence. Like there's theoretical risk of excessive fiber causing, for example, depletion of nutrients or something like this. I've never actually seen that in study or in practice. So, so from my perspective, like at least in the United States, it would be symptoms that I worry about. I don't particularly worry that it would result in it being unhealthy. The other thing to bear in mind is that any food that contains fiber is a plant food. And what we're talking about here today is achieving fiber sufficiency, fiber optimization using diet, which basically means you're eating a lot of plants, right? And we know with clarity that eating lots of plants is good for us. And it's not just fiber that you're consuming. You're getting all the stuff that comes with the plants, the vitamins, the minerals, the polyphenols, the phytochemicals, the fiber, the resistant starches, and more. So as opposed to if a person were in theory trying to do 100 grams of fiber per day using a fiber extract supplement, that would be a very different thing. And that's not what we're discussing here today. So I just wanted to be totally clear on that.
Right on. And yep. So I guess you're off to make a chia shake. Get your fiber on. Chia, good stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah. Could you eat a chia pet? I mean, I know that's not exactly a quote vegan thing to say, but could you eat a chia pet? And maybe that is a vegan thing to say. I don't know.
I mean, if we're gonna have a backlash over chia pets, then I think we've crossed into a new level.
I think, yeah. Come on, people.
Yeah,
take the joke.
It's a plant. It's a plant.
It's a
Okay?
plant, people. It's a plant. I used to always want the Scooby-Doo chias. They had one of Scooby-Doo, and then they had one of Shaggy, and I wanted the set growing up as a kid. I thought that those were the coolest.
Okay, so if you talk to Doug Evans,
all right.
Have you had Doug on the show? You've had Doug.
Oh yeah, the Sprout guy.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Okay. Yeah. So Doug is the author of the Sprout book, and if you talk to Doug Evans, actually chia seeds can be sprouted, and that's all a chia pet is. A chia pet is quite simply sprouted chia seeds. So actually, it would be quite nutritious and healthy for you.
Chia pet. All right. Well, maybe I'll go see if I can, get me one of them Scooby-Doo chias and make a salad.
Well, and we could have like a 21st century new version of the chia pet where it's not just a chia pet. We could have a lentil pet. We could have a broccoli sprout pet. And they're all sprouts. They're all sprouts. Like it'd be cool if it was like Doug's face and his hair was an exploding broccoli sprouts.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Yes. I like where your head's at. We have limitless opportunity here.
Sprouting does make fiber easier to digest.
Yes.
Tanon. So Tanon asked, does sprouting make fiber easier to digest? And the answer is yes. Also, sprouting increases protein intake. Sprouting creates healthy fats. Believe it or not, you also have vitamins and minerals. You also have digestive enzymes. So there's many examples of this. And you have, in many cases, very high concentrations of phytochemicals. So like broccoli sprouts have 50 to 100 times more sulforaphane, which is the cancer-fighting chemical, than you would get if you were to consume adult mature broccoli. That doesn't mean that adult mature broccoli has no value. It has tons of value. But it does mean that including broccoli sprouts in your diet is a healthy thing.
All right. And lastly, the cat. Wait. No, there it is. Here we go. The cat is out of the bag. Sarah guessed. This is what's coming in August. Dr. B and Chuck Chia Pets on Dr. B's website. That's what we're working on behind the scenes, my friends. The Chia Pets. You heard it.
Oh, that would be so cool. maybe it's true. I'm not confirming nor denying.
Nah. But maybe. All right. Thank you for your time, my friend.
Thank you, Chuck.
Good talk. All right. I also want to say a huge thank you to Dr. Brooke Broussard for powering this episode of the Exam Room Live. You can check her out at brookebroussard.com, where you can transform your health today with Brooke's balanced blueprint, just in time for summer, my friends. Discover practical ways to improve your nutrition and fitness so you can have more fun and enjoy your family and friends. You can discover her full range of services and sign up for her self-paced Eat and Feel Good course to achieve optimal health at drbrookebussard.com. That's drbrookebussard.com, or click the link in the episode notes. Don't forget to sign up for her newsletter and tell her that you are an exam roomie. And also looking forward to seeing everybody in Cleveland at the National Health Association Conference. That's coming up at the end of the month. You can join us in person or you can join us online. There's a link for your tickets in the show notes and in the show description, or visit healthscience.org. Special offer for exam roomies. Use code PCRM20 for 20% off online tickets, or join us in person in Cleveland, $100 off if you use the code PCRM100. Links with all of the details right now are in the show description and in the episode notes. By the way, at the NHA conference, super pumped about this. On the last day, going to be hosting a live episode of the show with an all-star lineup of guests. That's going to be Sunday, June 29th. Going to be joined by Drs. Joel Furman, Stephen Esser, and Megan Grega, all on stage at the NHA conference in Cleveland. Also going to be taping a bunch of other episodes while I'm there. So if you can make it to Cleveland, we would love to see you. Again, use the code PCRM100 to save $100 off the cost of your ticket. Or if you want to join us online, cool, PCRM20 will also save you 20%. But for today, my friends, that is going to wrap things up. Thank you to the crew behind the scenes for making the magic happen, and to you exam roomies for all of your wit, your wisdom, and your questions in the chat today. And one more time, a tip of the cap to Mr. Fiber-Fueled himself, the WWE King of the Ring, Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. And for everybody here at the Physicians Committee, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. We will talk to you again very soon. But until then, my friends, keep it plant-based.